Okay, imagine for a second that you stumble upon a document, a history book, but it's from the near future, and it claims to chronicle the exact moment our entire economic world came crashing down. Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. This isn't just a theory we're looking at, it's a very specific, detailed account of a system's collapse, a story about the end of the petrodollar era.
The chronicle we're analyzing, it opens with this line, "No punches pulled. The world you knew is dead." Right away, it sets this incredibly grim tone. It tells you that what we're about to read isn't a story of accidents or bad luck, but of a deliberate, calculated demolition.
So, just so we're all on the same page here, our job today is to act like historians. We're looking at one specific, pretty dramatic document. The goal is to simply understand the story it tells, and that story has a name, the Frag-Reset.
All right, so this is where our chronicle really begins. It paints a picture of an empire teetering right on the edge, and it introduces this core idea that's going to drive the whole narrative, this thing called the Frag-Reset.
So what on earth is the Frag-Reset? Well, according to this document, the collapse wasn't an accident, not at all. It was more like a controlled demolition. The theory is that the West, led by the US, made a conscious choice to tear down the very system they had built and championed for decades. And you have to ask, why? Well, to replace it with something completely different.
And this right here, this really shows you the kind of massive shift we're talking about. On one side, you have the old petrodollar system, the deal that kept the US dollar at the heart of all global oil trades. The Chronicle calls it a global stabilizer. But on the other side, you've got this new mineral digital system, supposedly backed by hard assets like Arctic minerals and controlled through digital means. And look at the change in role, from stabilizer to resource predator. It's a total flip.
Every empire seems to have a breaking point. And according to this chronicle, the real trigger for this whole Frag-Reset thing wasn't some outside enemy. It was something internal, something almost mathematical, the debt cliff.
16%. That's the number. According to our source, this single number is the point of no return. It's the percentage of the budget where the U.S. debt service, and that's just paying the interest on the national debt, gets so huge that the whole economic model just stops working. Hitting this debt cliff, the document claims, didn't just suggest a change in strategy, it literally forced one.
And the fallout from that forced strategy change, it was massive. This document alleges that the role of the US on the world stage changed like overnight. It went from being the world's police to becoming a resource predator. And it points to actions in places like Venezuela and Greenland as Exhibit A of this new, much more aggressive approach.
Okay, so if the decision to reset was made, what happens next? Well, this next chapter in the account details the brutal, messy process of just wiping the old chessboard clean. And we're not talking about a gentle transition here. This was a geopolitical erasure.
What's just wild here is the speed of it all, at least how this chronicle lays it out. We're talking a matter of months, and key pillars of the old world are just kicked over. The war in Ukraine is framed as a deliberate move to kill old trade routes. U.S. forces are on the ground in Venezuela. And then the big one, on February 28th, the supposed decapitation of the entire Middle East order with strikes on Iran.
So you have to ask, right? What was the point of all this chaos? This account points to one single, incredibly bold objective, the creation of the Ben Gurion Canal. The idea is that by setting the old order on fire, you could forge a brand new trade artery, one that completely bypasses the Suez Canal and rewrites the global trade map, with Israel as the new gatekeeper. But a reset isn't just about blowing things up. As the old world was supposedly burning, this chronicle claims a new order was already rising up, and not with armies and tanks, but with algorithms and digital currencies.
This was an invisible war fought entirely in cyberspace. And the superweapon, according to this source, was something called the JVG algorithm. The way it's described, it's basically a master key, a theoretical tool that could break any encryption anywhere in the world. Just think about that for a second. Every digital vault, every secret message suddenly wide open.
So while the West was supposedly engineering its own reset, an economic rebellion was already in full swing. This document points to Mbridge, which is a real-world project, by the way, as the main escape hatch. It's a digital currency platform that brings together countries like China, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, and it's designed specifically to move huge amounts of money completely outside of the dollar's influence. $55 billion. That's the number this document throws out there. The amount of capital it claims fled into the digital yuan using platforms just like mBridge. This isn't just a number. It's presented as a global vote of no confidence, a financial stampede away from the old system. So you see the strategy here, right? It's a devastating one-two punch. On one hand, you've got a technological breach with this so-called JVG algorithm, and on the other, a financial escape route with mBridge. The Chronicle basically argues that this digital assault was the final nail in the coffin, leaving the once unstoppable petrodollar on life support.
Now, these big geopolitical shifts are one thing, but what does it actually feel like for a nation that's just trying to survive on the ground? The source material takes a closer look at one country, Pakistan, to show us the brutal choices leaders face in this new world.
The problem laid out for Pakistan in this document is, well, it's tough. It describes the nation getting squeezed from two sides at once. You've got conflict flaring up on one border, and at the exact same time, its rival India is supposedly making the deal of the century, locking in its own place in the New World Order, while Pakistan is completely distracted.
But the final threat, the thing this account says is truly existential, is something else entirely. It alleges that the Indus River itself was turned into a weapon, leading to what it calls water bankruptcy. I mean, when another country can turn your nation's lifeblood off like a faucet, things like armies and alliances suddenly don't seem quite as important.
And so, for countries like Pakistan, caught in the middle of all this, the Chronicle offers some very direct, almost frantic advice. It's a complete shift away from the old way of doing things, of picking a side. The new game is all about staying neutral, securing your own resources, and just adapting as fast as you can. The message is pretty clear. Look out for yourself, because no one else is going to.
And with that, the historical account we've been looking at just ends. The old world is gone, the new rules are in place, and the great Frag-Reset is, for all intents and purposes, done.
And that's really the question this whole account leaves you with, isn't it? This document we've walked through describes a brutal, chaotic, and totally intentional transition from one system to another. It makes you stop and think, when one global system dies, is there any guarantee at all that the next one will be any better?